name is Rodolfo Morales. I am the piano director of the AFA, and I am here to talk to you about linear versus non-linear learning. Time is too precious to waste, especially since as students, you guys usually have like 4 or 5 AP classes that you unwisely chose to take, so that the time for practice that you actually do have has to be the most effective practice time that you can come up with. Practice should be a designed activity that ensures that we get the most productivity with the short amount of time that we actually have for it. So what is nonlinear learning? I'll start with maybe telling you what linear learning is. Linear learning is the way we usually learn music, which is we start at the beginning, we continue learning to the middle, and we finish at the end. It isn't bad, it works just fine. It's just not the most effective way to do it. Non-linear learning, on the other hand, is where we learn sections in a different order than they are to be performed. So I'm going to give you 4 good reasons why non-linear learning is better than linear learning. Reason number 1, the world around us, it's not like linear learning. Think about anytime you've learned anything, like for example a sport or a language. What is the first thing that you do when you're learning a sport? You throw the ball or you kick the ball. You don't read the rules manual at the beginning. Strategy and rules, they come later. Actually, composers write music in a non-linear way. They begin with a motif here, a motif there. They are working on different sections concurrently. So that actually that's a very good reason why we should do nonlinear learning, simply because it prepares our brain to assimilate real life challenges. Reason number 2, linear learning gives you relatively few choices or options as opposed to non-linear learning. In linear learning, where you learn from the beginning to the end of the piece, since you have few options, it engenders a lack of engagement. However, in non-linear learning, where you learn sections as though they were in a puzzle out of order than written on the page, this kind of learning will make the learner feel like they have control over the learning outcome. They have choices, they have options. So non-linear learning will activate the brain in a way that linear learning will not. Reason number 3, when you learn music using non-linear learning, you will end up knowing the piece much better. You will know it better in terms of memory. You will know it better in terms of structure and form. I can't tell you how many times I've heard a student perform a piece very fluently with a lot of confidence, and when we start talking about the piece or studying the piece in greater depth, it turns out that they know nothing about the way it's put together. They know nothing about the motivic connections found in the piece. It's almost as though they learned it like a program, like a robot. So think about it like this. Linear learning is like you walking a path through a forest that somebody has laid down for you. You put your AirPods and you walk, no problem, easy. Non-linear learning is as though you're making your own path through that forest. And in designing your path through the forest, you consider your surroundings in greater depth and clarity. And reason number 4, non-linear learning will maximize the time and effort that you will spend on the hard sections of your piece. Usually what happens with linear learning is that the easy sections are usually at the beginning. The hard sections don't come typically until the middle and very frequently at the very end. So what does this mean? This means that by the end of the learning cycle, by the end of the performance cycle, we will have spent the most time with the easiest sections the longest. and the shortest time with the hardest sections. So nonlinear learning says, hey, let's be smart about this. Let's turn this around. So we start learning the toughest sections right from the beginning. And it usually means that we start learning at the very end. Think about all those flashy codas in the Chopin ballades, for example, or straight in the middle. But this is a very good formula to be able to ensure that we have a good product. How to do it, how to do nonlinear learning. There's many ways of doing it, but this one is my favorite because it tackles the degree of difficulty within the piece. Let's say that you have a piece like Für Elise by Beethoven. Everybody knows it. The beginning is easy. Then you have a middle and a third section that are harder than the beginning. So number one, go over the entire piece and decide which sections are going to be the hardest. Then, which sections are going to be about average. And then finally, which ones are the easy ones. Label them on your music. Most pieces should look like a pyramid. Most measures will be easy. They'll be at the bottom. The hardest measures somewhere in the middle, and then a few hard measures at the top. But it is these few hard measures that will color the rest of the piece in terms of what the overall difficulty is. Number two, prioritize the hard measures and design your practice accordingly. For example, 30 minutes for the hard measures, 20 minutes for the average measures, and only about 10 minutes for the easy measures. Or just work on the hard measures one day and then work on the average and easy measures the next. Here's where you can get creative with your practice. There's no way to go wrong if you keep in mind that what your priorities are and if you think of your practice as being designed or planned. So, next time that your teacher gives you a piece of music to learn, be more thoughtful about the way you go about learning it. Learn it in a non-linear way. You can do it, like I showed you here, by choosing different categories according to difficulty, or you can create your own. For example, you can create categories of mood, of thematic groupings, of keys. The possibilities are as many as your creativity.